Good afternoon and welcome, dear friend, to this amazing Saturday session at the SSB. Here tonight to conduct a continuation of our studies of the book Planetary Transition, in which we will be discussing chapters 15 and chapter 16. And this is session 8. Again, giving continuation to this amazing work by Manuel de Miranda. Before we continue and we dive into the lessons of tonight, we would like to read a passage of the book Happy Life, in which Joana de Anjos, through the hands of the medium Divaldo Franco, says the following. Jesus said, "Do not let your heart be grieved," teaching that calmness and a belief in God should be the watchwords of any individual desiring to find happiness. There are always reasons for worry, disquieting the heart and perturbing life. Human existence is an opportunity to appreciate eternal riches and inner enlightenment. If you turn your anxieties over to God and trust Him with your life, everything will turn out all right. And if something disturbing does occur, serenity will take charge of the situation and all will be well. For this reason, do not let your heart or mind be unsettled by unfortunate occurrences. It is with appreciation to this moment and this message that we would like to invite everyone to pray together. Let us thank and acknowledge our presence physically, as well as the presence of our brothers and sisters who are with us from the spirit realm. So, on that note, let us bring quietness to our hearts and minds as Joanna de Angelis reminds us of our Master Jesus telling us to not let our hearts be grieved, and finding comfort in moments like this, where we come together as brothers and sisters, family members of this great realm of life, to stop, think, pray together, analyze a good message together as we give continuation to eternal life, the difficulties that we have, the trouble moments, they shall pass. But we must persist with one another and with our minds, with our dear Creator, to share life, to multiply life. This way, we ask our dear Creator for us to receive the enlightenment that we need through the teachings that we will discuss tonight, for us to receive enlightenment, to understand our purpose in life, whether small or big, whether in the circles of our families or in the greater world. May each one of us be guided through our mentors, through these teachings, in life in general, with your guidance, protection, and permission. We open up this amazing moment with one another. Thank you, and so be it. So, dear friends, here we are again, giving continuation to this amazing topic of planetary transition. Why do I say the topic of planetary transition? Because it involves a lot. It involves each one of us working together. It involves our feelings. It involves our personalities, culture, everything that we can imagine that is ingrained in this idea or the feeling of the planet Earth, right? When we talk about transition, it's not just a small movement that it will happen in my life that will change the whole, but these small things will contribute and will affect others and the feelings and the thoughts of others as well. So we always like to remind everyone that it's important that we not only follow these teachings. I think it's important for us to truly take the time to read the book, and watch or rewatch the talks afterwards, where we will be able to go ahead and take the highlights that we're bringing here and connect with the highlights that we will each one of you will be able to come up with. As we were saying, today we will be sharing chapters 15 and 16. And we can see that we have made a great progress throughout these 8 months that we have been presenting these topics. The last time we met, we talked about making up for lost time and guidelines for the future. Where now we're really in a condition right now that we are in the second part of the book, where we are now exploring our brothers and sisters from, if we can even give a gender to these enlightened minds that are reincarnating on planet Earth from the constellation of Alcyon. So it's a lot of material that we need to cover. So we'll try to go over. We cannot go over everything, even though I brought quite a bit of material to share with you, and I'll be reading so that we don't lose a lot of the material. But we'll try to do this within an hour so that we can go on into the comments and the questions that we may have. So, chapter 15. Chapter 15 is really interesting because here we will see that Manuel Filomeno de Miranda is actually discussing, and he goes into this analysis of what I would like just to bring something that some comments that I would like to make here, some reminders. But he brings this analysis of how these spirits that are reincarnating on Earth, the messengers from the constellation of Alcyon, to implement changes in the in our moral, in the condition, the psychosphere of the planet Earth, as well as to help boost some of the changes that will inevitably happen in the physical body as well. And we can get more details on this on both areas by reading the book, by diving to it. We have already discussed some of it, but mainly we're going to be focused on the moral. And interesting, as we like to start the chapter by providing the us what Manuel Filomeno de Miranda says. He says, before returning, we superficially got to know the spirits who would be under our mentor's guidance and whom we would assist with their rebirth in this matter. So they're in this connection now with the spirits who would be reincarnating, as well as and later on we will see the connection with the future parents, right, of these spirits who would be reincarnating. And according to Dr. Santana, who is the mentor, the mentor of this group of 250 or more, there were about 1,000 of them. They would also accompany us to the encampment built by expert that had preceded us. Throughout the day, we conversed with some of them and listened to their wonderful story about the life they enjoyed in Alcyon. And here's a little picture that you can see of the constellation there, and it's amazing. It's amazing that we have technology to connect with what the author is saying, and he brings this amazing passage of the Bible. I could grasp what Jesus meant in John 14, 1-2, when he said, "Let not your heart be troubled. Believe in God. Believe also in me. In my Father's house are many mansions." So it's important for us to go back and not only to make these connections with the teachings that Jesus have already brought to us 2,000 years ago, but also to what Spiritism explore in the Gospel according to Spiritism, which is one of the passages that is actually discussed in the Gospel according to Spiritism, that in the Father's house there are many mansions. So it would be absurd for us to think that we are all alone. And in the other side, it's important, or in addition to it, I shouldn't say on the other side, but in addition to this, is that we have the grace of God helping us by sending us true messengers of a planet that is happy. A planet that is already happy is not a planet that is in the same level as you are, or a little bit advanced. They're way more advanced than we are. And we'll see the comparison that the author is trying to bring to us. He tells us that in the spiritual realm, okay, there are fine advancements of what we see here on Earth. I'm going to make I would like to invite you to analyze this, what Mr. Miranda is saying, a comparison, or the description of the spirit world with us, as well as we're going to also take a leap and try to understand, which is quite hard, what the spirits were telling him on how life is in these in more evolved planets in the constellation of Alcyone. This is the description of Mr. Miranda saying, how is the spirit world? In some ways, we see these characteristics here already on Earth, or being developed here on Earth. Quite slow, but still it's already happened. School and theaters for intellectual and moral training, exemplary hospitals and sanatoriums that will inspire future buildings on the Earth, as is already happening, as he says, and art galleries in all genres, where fine artists hone their skills in order to render the Earth a paradisiacal planet. Laboratories for planning and projects for discovering the laws that govern the planet and the cosmos. Diligent work to eradicate the diseases and disorders that still predominate on the planet, and meetings enriched with wisdom, entailing lofty discussions and conversations about life and existential purpose. Universities for delving into the most advanced knowledge, preparing teams of spirits illuminated by love and cultural information, with the mission of preparing new and successive generations for the future of a happy humanity. Libraries filled with books that bear the images of those who wrote them, including their emotions, video libraries, and virtual images of special computers and superior television broadcast communication, all meant for the ennoblement of individuals and their inner achievements. Rooms not always available to everyone, where the past experience of the local inhabitants are archived. This is the spirit world, right? Where Mr. Miranda is actually saying, this is what we face, what we see, the developments that we already see in the spirit world in his level. We also have to understand that his level already is he's in a moral position, that he is able to live in such a condition, because we also have to analyze that there are zones, unfortunate zones, based on the characteristic of the spirit, that not necessarily they will see this. Now, the grace of God allows them to come in contact with these locations to rehabilitate them. But again, this is Mr. Miranda trying to bring an understanding of what they see. And it's so amazing, because this is not the whole thing. I mean, I brought just a portion of it that he describes to us on how the spirit realm is, that not even this, that is, again, already being established here on Earth, is near what the spirits from Alcyone is actually telling him, could mention to him. They were actually talking about feelings, right? Before he goes on, he says, life is a hymn of immeasurable magnitude, honoring the Creator. And the spirits, when they brought the information, when they were bringing information on how it is in Alcyone, it was quite hard for him to understand, or to produce in words more feelings of what they could describe from the other sides. In their narration, the new alien friends spoke of emotions that we have not yet experienced. They describe iridescent landscape completely unknown to us, sound and harmonies we have not yet experienced. Their constructions made of modulated energy, those composition I could not grasp, as it was easily manipulated by the spiritual mind. The fraternity they described was sublime in a way I had never imagined possible. The interdependent harmony between the flora and fauna highlights the glorified spirit devoid of organs that break down, although still in the temporary physical garb, but with a view to the infinite progress reserved to it. In one of their mental projections, we could see a dazzling sanctuary of prayer dedicated to exalting and giving thanks to God, and where the guides of the first magnitude star communicated with one another, glorifying the Creator. In addition, what also grabbed my attention was the continuous activity, the ceaseless work of spiritual growth, because uselessness, idleness, and enjoyment without making a contribution are deceptive construction, from sickly thoughts and emotions. Once more, dear friends, the level of life, if we can generalize that way, is way superior than ours. And here we are having these spirits who have no connection with planet Earth, who have no past connections in terms of we can say this past considerations or rehabilitation needs with the planet Earth. He reincarnated here on planet Earth to bring us this boost in our morality and again technology and everything else that we can connect with. And they're already here with us. They have been reincarnating for years past, but now it is happening due to our advancement of our technology as well as our more advances, believe it or not. Some of us may question what more advances we have in terms of accepting such a minds here. But here we are, the grace of God acting upon us to bring us this boost that we need to become better beings. Giving continuation to what Mr. Miranda brings us, they are now, they go into this exploration of how they were connecting the future spirits or to be reincarnated, connected with the parents. The encounters of future parents and future incarnates. Distinguished spirits from our plane were in charge of bringing approximately 250 couples partially disengaged from their physical bodies through sleep to our encampment. There were lovingly brought in natural torpor to the huge pavilion reserved for them, where they awakened gently, maintaining the relative lucidity of their particular evolutionary state. Here, just so we understand, it's a partial disengagement from the physical body. What are we trying to say? As we can see in the pictures, the couples who were parents to be, they were sleeping, and during the moment of sleep, the ascension of the spiritual body, they were able to come to this meeting. They were connected to this meeting where they would meet their future offsprings, if we can call it that way. Many of you may ask, okay, how does this happen? This is another topic that we can explore in different moments, and you can learn through a website as well. The how we remember our dreams, the effect of our dreams. Sometimes it could be again our remembrance of where we were while we were partially disconnected from our physical bodies during the moment of sleep. Sometimes we have that remembrance, and when we sleep, that I dreamed of this person, I connected with this person, and we have that feeling of connecting with other. Here, the remembrance that these couples would have is that I met this amazing child or this enlightened being, and it was very comforting. As we can see in the description of Dr. Miranda, the meeting was amazing, and they were able to learn a lot from one another in terms of feelings, always accompanied by one of those in charge of bringing them to our sphere and caring for them while there. So there's order. They became aware of what was happening to them. Later, they would recall such occurrence as an unusual dream, as we said, whose content would remain imprinted in their core of their beings. So Dr. Santana then comes and starts to address the parents, and it starts to address also later on the spirit who would be reincarnated. And it's very beautiful how he brings these guidelines to them, because one would think that, okay, these are enlightened beings, right, that they're reincarnating here on planet Earth. So I would like to ask you to really think about this. Do they need any directions? Do they need any support if they're so enlightened? But everything follows a order. Everything needs to come together. Remember, even though they reincarnated on Earth from a more evolved planet, they also have to undergo the conditions that planet Earth presents to them. One of them is the forgetfulness of the past. They will have insights of what happened to them, where they come from. They will have this feeling of longing, but not necessarily they will be able to remember directly what it is, right? And in that sense, they need a lot of love. They will need a lot of support from the future parents, even though they don't understand fully or directly the mission of these spirits that they would be bringing into their homes. We are all gathered here for the first spiritual contact in order to define guidelines for the future. All of you who have been, and excuse me, this is Dr. Santana talking to the parents, more directly to the parents. All of you have been brought here, nourished by the desire to procreate, some of whom have already experienced. Your lives have been wholesome. Your conduct is based on the ethical values of good. You are committed to your various religious denominations, and you are striving to dense peace and wholeness. You will be part of that renewal at a time when pain-filled events will afflict countless families and end many lives, when sentiments of solidarity and compassion will be lacking due to the pursuit of pleasure and the escape of reality. Nonetheless, you will be educating those who are going to modify that gloomy landscape and open up brightly lit areas in the dense darkness. The children entrusted to you temporarily will need emotional and spiritual support for the desideratum for which they will be sent to the earth. So, again, reminding them, look, here's the moment that you will be helping humanity. There is a greater purpose than just having kids. There is a greater purpose than having offsprings, right, to procreate. And I think it's important for us to realize this, that they're not special or better than this or that group of people or those or other parents, because we parents of the spirits who have a connection with Earth, we're also special in the sense that we are now educating individuals for the future too. These will be individuals who will be procreating the future with these other spirits. So we have to understand how important it is, every level of leadership that we have in terms of being a parent, being an educator. And I say leadership because we become leaders. We become individuals that will have to take from the best of us and pass it along, and be calm enough or oriented enough to guide these other minds. And in their case, it's a little bit more special. Dr. Santana continues by saying, teach them devotion to duty, responsibility, love, and knowledge, so that they have the means to fight until victory is achieved. Remember, it's a victory that's not going to happen overnight. The Lord who has called you has been taking care of you, for you were reborn at this moment, having been selected for the fulfillment of venerable prophecies regarding the happy era for the humanity of the future. Preserve your balanced behavior, your respect for your partner, so that you may provide genetic resources suitable for shaping the future bodies of these wayfarers of the light. A parallel that I would like to make here is that, look, this is not just for these parents. This should be for us parents as well, for individuals who want to become parents, and they are soon to become parents, and they also have the task to lead to minds and hearts that will be leading the world in the future. Don't ever be afraid. Love as sowers in charge of a duty without thinking about immediate results. The harvest belongs to the future. Keep Jesus in mind and heart, preserving the sentiments of honor learned in your schools of religious faith, convinced, however, of your immortality. It's important for us to also highlight that these spirits are not reincarnating in this type of family, in this group, with this group of people, in this set of religion. This is a mass reincarnation of these spirits coming from Alcyon that will be reincarnating in different areas. And we also see here that it's not a specific of chosen ones that will be having this opportunity, because the advancement, the more advancement for God has to happen all throughout. And we'll discuss this a little bit more later on. You have come from now, actually, take a step back. Now, Dr. Santana is actually addressing more directly the individuals who will be reincarnating. You have come from a first magnitude star where exalted concessions of love reached a point of unmatched happiness, and you will become immersed in a carnal fog, experiencing the difficulties inherent to the limiting human condition. I'll make a stop here, and I do apologize, but just remember, sometimes we prepare these talks and we have a feeling of what we're going to say, but something just crossed my mind that before Dr. Santana starts addressing then the spirits will be reincarnating, they had a moment in which the names of the parents would show in a screen, if you will, and the names of the spirits who would be reincarnating under those parents would come up, so they would connect. And they explain, and Mr. Miranda explains that they had exactly 15 minutes to come together and have a meeting. And the spirits from Alcyon were pre warned, or if we can say this way, or told that of the time that they had. And when I was reading this, it really amazed me of the order of how organized everything was being done. It was not just like, okay, we're going to meet your future parents. No, there was a preparation, and it was a group of parents and a group of spirits as well who would be reincarnating. So everything shows order, shows compassion, shows the importance of these reincarnatory plans that were being done with these parents. Going back to what Dr. Santana was saying, we can see that you will experience longing for the loved ones you left behind on your merciful journey, oftentimes in apparent loneliness. Look at this. We were talking about spirits who are happy spirits. If we follow the guidelines of that we learn from Spiritism, we will see that we have several degrees of spirit. They in which they vibrate in different manner. These spirits, if we can consider not only the spirits, but also the planets where they came from, the planet where they came from, they're happy spirits from happy planets, where happiness, it's for everyone. They feel happiness, but these are spirits that still, when they will come they are fully immersed in the physical body, they will also feel loneliness. So sometimes we have this feeling, oh, I shouldn't feel this way, or I shouldn't feel that, or I long for this person, or long for this condition. This is something obviously that we cannot compare with them directly, but we can see that it's a normal feeling that when we long for those whom we connect the most, and they will go through this as well. Let me repeat that you will experience misunderstanding, and you will suffer the daggers of inferiority that prevail among terrestrial travelers in their momentary backwardness. At other times, in the partial disengagement of the spirit from its physical body through sleep, you will enjoy time with us. We will be at your side and will take you, although briefly, to those sanctified places whence you have come in order to renew our strength and find the joy to continue your redemptive ministry. Asphyxiated at times by the sickly fog of the psychosphere of the planet in transition, you will long celestial vibrations, which you will enjoy again only when your unusual labor of love and sacrifice is concluded. We're going to go over a little bit more, but mainly the idea is to bring them joy of what is ahead of them, right? In terms of work, right? He kind of really touches on the idea that there will be difficult moments for these spirits reincarnating, as well as the parents that will be working with them as well. You will know that human reproduction is under severe impositions with respect to the organic constitution, and that the evolutionary needs of each being are designed in the DNA. Nonetheless, it's always the spirits itself who selects the sperm most compatible with its evolutionary purposes. Here, we jumped into this part because not only they're helping change the moral aspect of the psychosphere of the planet Earth, but they will also boost transformations into the physical body. Because since they are spirits of more elevated conditions, their physical constitutions is much more developed than ours. And again, because of the psyche, the way they will their choices will abilitate them to have bodies more refined than ours. That's why we would jump into this, so we can also guide you to pay attention to this moment, pay attention to this um, element of this chapter, as we have said in the past, that is not really the main highlight, but it is something that we have to bring to one another. Due to the vibrations it emits, the spirit selects it from all the others and fires it towards the egg, the miracle of fertilization. Heritage is in some ways linked to the physical constitution in a few morphological and biological characteristics. However, the moral strata are provided by the reincarnating spirit. So again, most of it, the physical body that we have and these spirits will have as well, it's a consequence of our psyche. We made the choices to have this body or that body, indirectly or directly, depending on our situation. So it's not fully correct for us to say I have this issue or I have that issue because my father or my family or my mother had this issue, and it's something that I inherited from them. And this is, again, not a topic that we need to go into detail, but mainly for us to highlight that this is also the book, and we can find answers to these questions when we have them in the future. Maintain affection and respect in our closest relationships so that you may avoid the meddling of vulgar and pernicious spirits who will try to hypnotize you to make you adopt vices and aberrations in vogue in material relations. And this is again Dr. Santana talking to the parents. We need your healthy contribution to succeeding in endeavors from the very start. Before the rebirths of your spirit guests begin, you will maintain psychic contact with them so that you can develop the sentiments of affection. Remember, they had no connection whatsoever to these parents. In other words, they didn't reincarnate before to establish a good or perhaps a tough condition. So they will need this moment to acclimate with these parents that they will be receiving in the future, and the parents with these spirits as well. More often, they will be visiting you, adapting to the planetary consciousness and your emotions. Rejoice, workers of the new world. You will be living in the great twilight of the current civilization, but you will enjoy the beauty of the dawn of the new era of peace and blessings. I want to highlight one thing. Hopefully, I will not forget. I don't think I will, but I would like to say it now. When we jump to chapter 16, there will be a part as well that all of these beautiful things is happening, and we think that okay, it's guided by spirits, high order spirits. The spirits who are reincarnating. They are happy spirits, and we think that everything will go to plan. It will, but do not forget that there will always be the unhappiness of other minds that do not want to success on earth in terms of more advancement, or to be happy, or to let go their old ways. So there is always aggression from the other side saying, oh no, this is not going to happen. We'll see a little bit more of this, because it's a highlight that I'd like to bring, that anytime we choose to do something positive in our lives or to change our ways, we have our connections from the past, and we will be trialed. We'll be questioned if this is truly what we want to do. And sometimes when we start something great in our lives and we see how hard it is to give continuation, it's very easy for us to start something, but it's very difficult for us to maintain until the end, right? So I highlight that we'll go back to it again, but it's just something that I would like to say before we go on into chapter 16. Reincarnation Programming. The beginning of the new era, programmed by Jesus for the beloved planet, also foresaw the return of philosophers and sages from the past, some of the ancient prophets, various creators of religions, pre-Socratics, and high-order spirits from the 4th century BC, such as those that, excuse me by the typo there, preceded the birth of the Messiah, reincarnating in the ancient Rome to make preparation for his advent. This is words of Dr. Miranda here. Likewise, the enlightened thinkers of the Neoplatonist school of Alexandria, culminating in the 3rd and 4th centuries with the martyrs, with the deniers, the medieval saints, the glorious warriors of the Renaissance, the Reformation, the Counter-Reformation, as well as the daring builders of the 17th, 18th, and 19th centuries. Why am I saying this is very slow and I didn't give any warning of what was about to happen? Again, this is the beginning of the chapter. One of the things that I've been noticing more and more, at the beginning of every chapter, Dr. Miranda tries to really grab the reader by its heart, if we can say that way, and brings these very touching beginning, whether given a glimpse of what's happening physically in the spiritual realm, or the messages like this. Look, God, under the governance of Jesus, have sent these different idealists or these great minds to help us. And he continues, among them the great missionaries of science and technology, rendering the present century a veritable sanctuary of love, beauty, charity, and spiritual enlightenment. We have received these great minds, and we continue to receive these great minds throughout time, but we don't pay attention. Nowadays, if we look into our condition, if you open the internet, if you look at the news, or if you go into different arenas of life, we will see that perhaps we are exploring some of these teachings, but we have our hidden agenda most of the time. And it's very sad that we haven't grasped the hard work of these minds that have already come to the planet Earth, and they're here on planet Earth executing this amazing work of our Master Jesus. And we take for granted, and we don't explore, we don't connect with them, we don't develop ourselves to get to their level, because it's something very interesting that also Spiritism brings to us that is attainable to all of us. Perhaps it may take a little bit more time for me than some of you. Perhaps in certain areas I will develop more than others. Family members, friends, co-workers, whatever arena of life, we will see these ups and downs of our evolution. However, we have the capabilities to ascend to these higher minds and connect with them. Indeed, at different times, missionaries of the good and the truth have lived on the earth so that there would never be a lack of higher teachings to provide liberations from the shackles of the perturbing tendencies arising from bad inclinations. Presently, however, something special is happening in relation to the foolhardy and wicked, those who still delighted in wrongdoing, those who, despite enjoying the blessed opportunity of self redemption, are not taking advantage of it due to their attunement to primitivism. These will be transferred to lower worlds compatible with them. In other words, there will be the way, as much as there is immigration or these spirits coming from other planets to enlighten us, the spirits that are here on planet Earth right now, if we don't connect, if we don't um, um, live to the standards that are being offered to us, we will have to reincarnate in other planets, in other arenas, or if we can say that way, in which we will utilize the what we have learned here on Earth, but not necessarily is going to be we're going to be able to stay here, because the more of the planet Earth will ascend as well. And when we don't have attunement, just like we attune with the music that can be playing on radio or the material that we look online or whatnot, what will happen to us is that we will be attuned with different areas. This doesn't mean that God is punishing us. Quite the opposite. We'll be given the opportunity to ascend by teaching others what we have here on learn, or what we have learned here on planet Earth. And I'm including myself on this when I say what we, because if I don't do my best to change my thoughts, my feelings to be worthy of this planet, or what is the transformations that we're seeing here, guess what? We will be called to go somewhere and exercise what we have learned with lower capable friends. And to summarize, they will bring knowledge from Earth, as we mentioned. They will be able to come back to Earth once they fulfill their commitments to spiritual growth. We have seen this here on planet Earth, the opposite happening. A lot of the emissaries that we have received came from different constellations, and it's happening again in a much higher evolutionary condition, because now these spirits are from happy worlds. In fact, luminaries of intelligence and love have never stopped reincarnating on the terrestrial world periodically to continue their labors. Their increasingly refined specialties, bringing progress and happiness to human beings and bringing light to the celestial canopy. And the Mr. Miranda actually give highlights also of who they are. What are these spirits that he's talking about? What is the let's say the essence of these spirits? And he says there are those who do not let us forget our commitments to the truth. They are example of selflessness and devotion that enrich us with knowledge and loving vibration, so that we may not grow faint in our personal struggles. Some anonymous, other known. They are characterized by their moral and spiritual conduct that makes them superior to the times in which they lived, designing the future with their examples of sacrifice. There are a number of examples that we can bring here. Perhaps you can go ahead and name more than I can in terms of the number of individuals that have reincarnated on Earth. But here's the main thing. Let us not forget the struggles of our mothers, our fathers, the individuals who have showed us the persistence on goodness, right? The values of being a family member, right? Not just be a father or mother, but a true son, a true daughter, a brother, a sister. What are our values in terms of our perception, in terms of our community? What are our perception in terms of the country where we live, right? The locations where we live. All of these things really helps us to understand that it's not just the Mother Teresa, Martin Luther King, or different minds that are founding fathers in this country, but the men and women who have worked hard preceding us or still here with us, to enlighten us. And their examples, not necessarily directly what they tell us or what they teach us, but they're examples. They're quiet examples tells us to say, continue on, persist, right? Do your best. Because if they can do it, we can do it. And if we can do it, for sure, others can do it as well. Dr. Santana then invites the group to visit one of the couples who would be receiving the emissaries or the spirits from Alcyon. And he says, on our first visits in the city of Belo Horizonte, we went into a comfortable residence in one of its upscale neighborhoods where all was silence. The couple was asleep in the bedroom, partially disengaged from their physical body during physiological sleep, dialoguing with one of who would be their firstborn. Dr. Santana invited everyone to pray to the Lord of life for the future parents and apply bioenergy resources to the future parents to facilitate their production of healthy sperm and ova, enabling a successful fertilization. What happened during this time here was that this couple, through many tries to be pregnant, for the mother to receive a little one, what happened was they were giving the idea of in vitro fertilization. They were not aware of it yet, but during this moment, they're giving that whisper. Let's say somebody comes to me and say, "Hey, try this," and they were not aware of it. And the next day, after they do this, they went ahead and they tried it. They got in contact with. They start the procedure, and this is where Dr. Santana explains the procedure of in vitro, and he goes also into other discussions that helps in this process, or that would be helping in this process of reincarnating, of this mass reincarnation from the spirits from Alcyon. We're not going to bring the whole detail. We have an amazing video that we can share, and you may want to. Perhaps I'll leave here on the screen for quite some time as we were talking. You can take note of this. It's called In Vitro Fertilization, IVF. It's a video on YouTube, and you can just perhaps Google the title, and it shows it's from the Nucleus Media, Medical Media, that it goes step by step. It's a very interactive video that you can learn a little bit more. But the Mr. Miranda asks, for some explanation on how these in vitro fertilization happens. It's hard for us to see here. I'll try to make it a little bit bigger here. But the step number one is ovarian hyperstimulation. Step number two is the egg retrieval. Step number three is sperm preparation, and number four is incubation, and number 5 and 6, embryo transfer, and then the pregnancy, hopefully, that happens if everything goes well. Dr. Santana goes into full details of step by step so we can better understand what are we dealing with, right? And allowing us through the advancements of technology for us to now be able to bring these brothers and sisters who will be incarnating with us, spirits from Alcyon. Remember, this technique or this fertilization procedure is being used in a way to explore, obviously, the technology that we have developed a little bit more, but also because a lot of these spirits, as we have said, they had all of these spirits had no connection whatsoever with us here on Earth. So it's easier for it to happen when the spirit, the pregnancy is easier to happen. I shouldn't say easier to happen. Happens more frequently with spirits who have some connection from the past, whether good or whether bad. Alongside in vitro fertilization, the admirable contribution of women ennobled by love who lend their wombs for development of embryos and the emergence of fetuses up to the moment of birth, called paid surrogate mothers, since they charge for the process is of indisputable value. In other words, there's also the help of surrogate mothers who actually allow this to happen. Not necessarily they will be the future parents in terms of who will guide the spirit as a daughter or son, but they allow the physical, they allow to use their physical body to become the parents. In some cases, as he says, they're not here to argue or to judge them, but it does happen, and it is also very interesting that we have this development of the women's mind to allow or to help another couple to become parents. The caveat, in some cases, the reincarnated spirits is more connected to the surrogate mother than to the real parents. Yes, I know. When we read this, it was very interesting because perhaps if it is, we're taking a step back or making a parenthesis here, not only to analyze what's happening in terms of the spirits from Alcyone reincarnating, but these surrogate mothers, when they go through this process, the spirit who reincarnates actually has nothing to do with the parents who will become real parents, but the actual mother who is allowing their womb to become or to procreate, if we can say it that way. So there is also a connection. That's why the in vitro fertilization is very helpful to allow these spirits from Alcyone to reincarnate. One thing that we would like to remind everyone that Mr. Miranda also says is that the work that was started by the couple who were given the idea to try in vitro fertilization happens, and it was actually a twin, a couple spirits who would be reincarnating under their family, and everything went so well after they start the procedure. And in this case, one of the things that I would like to remember or remind everybody is that while they were going through this process of bringing the spirits to reincarnate through this process, one of the spirits that was connected with the mother from past situations, a unfortunate abort that actually happened, came back, even though they had worked their differences or the difficulties from the abortion. He came back and tried to connect with the mother again, and Dr. Santana and the group starts talking to the spirit and saying, look, this is not the time. You will receive the ability to reincarnate, but this is not the time. So we can see how connected we are with our parents, with the group of people in which we have reincarnated, and we will make connections as we develop ourselves. So it's just a highlight that I would like to bring to everyone, so we can actually dive into this very amazing topics that he brings to us. And then he continues by saying, towards the end, that we could see the numerous groups of workers from our sphere and others under the high command of Jesus operating on the planet to create a psychosphere compatible with the requirements of the transformations taking place through the suffering, as well as through the awakening of consciousness by means of knowledge and the blessing of charity. Look, this is a preparation for the transformation. It's not that it's directly happening. It's a foundation to what's to come, which we already we can say that at this point we are in a position, as if we take an analogy of building a home, that we have dug the foundation and now, or the space for the foundation, and now we will start to make the actual foundation in terms of pour the concrete or having the slab where we will build our houses on it, right? That has to be very firm to accept what's to come. Meanwhile, recognizing the continued transformative operations, perverse spirits connected to the madness or its victims were fervently at work, developing mechanism of aggression against all those who were responsible for the ongoing changes. Here again, as we mentioned, before we start chapter 16, we mentioned this, and we alerted everyone. Look, just because we have this amazing work going on, that doesn't mean that we will have other spirits who does not want this to happen. God will allow us to face the difficulties in our lives, or the difficulties, or the consequences of unfortunate connections that we have made in the past, um, while we were trying to transform ourselves. Why? Number one, because it's a consequence, right? Life responds accordingly, which is a chapter of this book. In the other way, in other conditions, these spirits also need to come in contact with this transformation. They are not going to be isolated automatically, because number one, they have a connection with us, and when they see the transformation, they will be able to spark in themselves a compassion to say, look, you know what? If Leo can do it, I can do it. If this group of people can do it, I can do it as well. And this is on any arena of our lives and any conditions of our lives. Once we step out of our comfortable zone to do something that is greater than ourselves, that it requires attention, compassion, hard work, guess what? We will be tested. Our fibers, when our muscles, when we start to exercise, when we start to do something that we haven't done in the past, guess what? It screams, right? And we have to change on how we perceive what we're going through, and we give continuation courageously to what we're doing, the exercises or whatever we decide to do. On one of these occasions, when completely signed, our group was out in the open air. I contemplated the glittering canopy of stars and silvery moonlight. Our mentor invited us to prayer, proposing that we totally surrender to the heavenly friend who came 2,000 years ago to brighten the great night with the luminescence of his ineffable love. One of which I would like to remind myself once more, and our viewers who was watching us, who's connecting with us, that many times we take for granted. As promised, he has been sending in this moment of so many afflictions the Comforter who had already been in the world for over a century as a constellation of high order spirits, so that the darkness could be definitively diluted before the divine sidereal light. I was in, it, I was impossible to hold back. It was impossible to hold back the tears or remain indifferent to the sublime appeals of love. And he finished this chapter, or he goes through this chapter and finishes by telling us how important it is for us to connect. That there's no more time for us to waste in terms of not connecting with these higher minds, not allowing ourselves to create an environment where goodness can prevail. And yes, you may ask, but Leo, how can goodness prevail when we're inserted in this dark moment, difficult moments, transitional moments? We have the pandemic, we have this, we have that. For sure, we're being trialed, but the thing is, we have the capability, we have the information that we have learned from others, the books, the teachings, to at least be courageous enough and be persistent enough that we need to live a better future for each one of us, for our kids and for ourselves. Because if we are deemed the opportunity to reincarnate here on earth, we don't want to live something, a house full of troubles, full of issues, and without no idea on how to start to fix it up, right? So with our hearts full of joy of completing these two chapters, I forgive me if I have not covered what perhaps if you read and you thought it was important for you. There is much more that we can cover, but time is limited, and we have to utilize our time wisely. So hopefully we can connect in different ways beside of what we're going to do right now. Please state your questions, comments that you would like us to share. As usual, what I'd like to do is to go into the questions. I would love to go over every hello that we receive, and we contemplate for sure your presence here. So hello to everyone who said hello to everybody and your presence here with us. But I would like to go now over the questions and that we would like to share here. And then I have Yasko Chapter 15. I wonder if someone experienced the company of such evolved spirits in their family, workplace, and etc. Or some stories of amazing people that would remind spirits from Alcyone. Are you asking Yasko if this is a question, or if they have experience? I don't know. I would love to to know in the future, as we connect with this. But there are peculiar, for lack of better words, friends that we come across sometimes, right? Individuals who have apparently no connection whatsoever with planet Earth. When I say this, is I have come in contact with individuals who they don't feel that they belong to this group of people or to this culture. And if they are inserted in a culture and they don't say something, right, directly, you can see that they do live a very fulfilling life, but they have no connection whatsoever. Through their behaviors, we can see that it's not about the little bubble or environment that they live in, but they have this mind that is beyond our comprehension, right? So I think that this can be at least an example of spirits from other enlightened areas or planets that have reincarnated here on Earth. Scientists, because we saw that science is of God. We tend to separate everything, religion from science, and but mathematicians, they are God sent, right? Everything is connected with math. So it's important for us to look at these higher minds that their purpose is to develop something. They will do the mundane things, or they will live a mundane life in terms of procreating, having a family, kids, or having moments here on Earth, but their mind is fully connected to higher proposals, if we can say that way. And I hope that this gives you an example of what you meant on your question. And then we can go to other questions or comments that you may have. Yeah, too early. Perhaps they would be children. That is correct, and it is kind of too early. But remember, the Mr. Miranda have mentioned that we have received these minds, not as it is happening right now, and but throughout time, right? He also mentions that um, Jesus came and many other minds to give continuation to the work of Jesus, not necessarily in spirituality or religiosity, but in other areas as well. So it's important for us to understand that the moral um, also can be developed through science, through non arenas of life as well. And then we have Don Sembo, Kiana the artist. She did Prince of Peace at age 8, very evolved, self-taught young woman. She's received vision since age 3. A beautiful example. Thank you. It is true. Yes, we see this, as we mentioned, in different arenas of life. We think that art is just something that we appreciate and it's beautiful and that's it. No, obviously I'm saying this, and forgive me for those who don't see art this way, but for the majority, when we listen to music, most of the time it's not very enlightening, right? When we come in contact with classical music, for example, some people, they criticize and it's like, oh, this is not for me. But do we truly understand music? A very interesting account in the book, I forget now, by I believe Emmanuel, where he describes the Alcyone, right? The spirit who reincarnates on planet Earth, and she was studying music in another planet, if we can say that way, or spirit reality or spirit realm, and reincarnates on Earth to give continuation to help a friend. And she was studying music in a much higher level than we understand here on Earth. So thanks for the example. And then we continue. During my teenage nervous breakdown, I remember wanting to go home and really missing it. Paula from Paula Schmidt. Yes, Paula, we all have this feeling to some degree. The lack of connection with those whom we reincarnate is at times it's very troublesome. But we also would like to invite those who go through these ideas, and Paula, you may be able to connect this way now that we understand a little bit better. That this is for a reason, right? For our development as well as the development of others, right? In terms of our development, we are reconnecting with our past conditions that we need to rehabilitate, as well as if we have no connection with the family members in which we reincarnate, or the circle family in which we reincarnate, it's because they can learn something from us, or perhaps we can learn something from them. So it goes both ways. What we need to do when we come in contact with these feelings: pray, because through the sleep, through the momentary disengagement of the or partial disengagement of the physical body, we're able to connect with these higher minds. It was very interesting the other night, where a friend of mine told me and my wife that his wife was pregnant, and the joy and the feeling that, when he told me about it, and he was actually recording my emotions, how I reacted to the video, because we were talking over the phone. After I saw it, was like, oh my God, I didn't think I was really showing that way, because again, it was expressing my feelings. It was an amazing moment. And I told him, look, I wish I was there physically to connect with you guys, to give you guys a hug, because I'm very happy for you. And this is something that he had been thinking about for quite some time. And that night, I had a dream that I was with him and his wife, and he had a dream that we were together. So it was really interesting for us to connect that way. And you get up in the morning in that euphoria, right? That, oh, we connected. So it's really interesting. So throughout the night, we can be reconnected with those who we belong. Regina, response to Yasko, my colleague Janice Jackson, a Baltimorean who, after becoming paraplegic as a result of a car accident when she was young, has been helping others through her nonprofit, WENA. I believe this was a response to the question that Yasko posed. Thank you, Chris. Yes, Renunciation is the book. Thank you so much for rescuing me here on the book. I'm kind of hard with titles. Paula Smith, again, our dear friend Laura, read this book before passing over. It is. I remember the discussions that we were having about the book. Yes, and then Yasko again, as they are not pure spirits, they may still fail. Right, dangerous decisions to come to a lower planet and people. Good comment and question, Yasko. I don't think that they will fail, because I would like to think that these spirits, they will, their feelings they're not perfect. They're happy spirits. That's a good point that you bring. But they're in a level now that they are looking for happiness. What I would like to say, and this is Leo's perception of the whole thing, is that they will feel that the loneliness that Mr. Miranda is saying, mentioned to us, as well as that feeling of not belonging to the environment, right? That's why they ask to, really be persistent, to the parents, work with them. I think that's what it would happen. But I would not think that they would be putting spirits or allowing spirits to reincarnate for this mission that would fall. Now, you are correct in the sense also that they have their choices. So they may do things here or this or that way. And remember, these spirits would for sure be applying the teachings of our Master Jesus that our Master Jesus has mentioned to us. They're not going to fight. They're not going to go to war. Their condition is going to be very calming. Their decision is going to be very calming and very precise, and it's going to take time. So it's not that necessarily they will go ahead and 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 change the status quo or what's happening, but with the infusion of a lot of work, a lot of thought, a lot of feelings. Because also, Mr. Miranda mentions that it was hard for him to understand the feelings that we don't even understand or know yet. So with those hints, that's why I come to this conclusion. So I hope it helps. But you're right to bring this aspect that they are not perfect spirit yet; they're happy spirits. So thank you for the comment. Yes. Aloysio Correa mentioned, Paula, you made me remember the movie E.T., Go Home. The little guy wanted to go back home. True, yes. And this is how they probably be feeling, right? And telling us that there is more than what we think is, the planet Earth is the only planet in the vast houses by our Creator. It is called lucid dreams when you recall these meetings confirmed by the ones present too. Thank you. That we go through this, and it's so true. And I like to think as well that the spirits they're not connecting with somebody who is in another country or 1,000 miles away, but they are connecting with minds and hearts that are in a completely different environment, galaxy. They're very far away. So that goes to show the power of our thoughts, the power of our feelings, right? That it's not just like we use our mobile device to call someone with technology, but to see, wait a minute, I can connect with higher minds from other planets. I can connect it with other minds from other constellation, and moreover, beings that are higher, more evolved than I am. Very well said. Thanks for the reminder. Antonia Carter, do we know how many spirits from Alcyon are reincarnated on Earth? If I'm not mistaken, there's thousands of them. Just this group alone that was actually worked on this chapter was actually 250, if I'm not mistaken, or 1,000 of them. So there are several. I forgive me if I can't give you the correct answer right now, but that was mentioned, if I'm not mistaken, on session 7 or 6, the number of spirits. But there are a lot, and the explanation that we get is that it's going to be throughout the world. It's not just going to be at this country or that country. In this arena of life, those who follow this religion or this science, no, it's going to be all throughout. Remember, these are spirits who are very knowledgeable on how to work with the environment that they live, where they live, and the resources that they have. Obviously, there is a preparation. Nothing is by chance. But for sure, they are very knowledgeable on how to operate in different environments. Couldn't it be that, parents may not just refer to biological ties? I am thinking of adoptive parents. An example, the couple who adopted and raised Steve Jobs. Couldn't it be that parents may not just refer to biological ties? I'm thinking it's the example that you give in itself is definitely an example in itself. That's what I'm trying to say. Steve Jobs being a very revolutionary mind, where everything that he did was to simplify life, right? Can be an individual who came from another planet. Adopted parents also could be in this let's say line of work that is being done. But I would like to explore this in more and to give you a precise answer. The thing is that we need to take in consideration is that none of these spirits had a pre-connection with planet Earth. Not only with the planet, but the psychosphere of the planet, the spirits who are connected here. And this is one of the reasons and aspects that we have to understand why they will prevail. Because if they come in contact with the difficulties, to them it's going to be like, okay, it's their choice. I have nothing to do with this. I'm just going to go ahead and continue my work. This is a very eye-opening because it frees us as well on how not to be upset with the decisions of others. What I'm trying to say is this: why should I feel upset that somebody made a decision to do something wrong? I know it's a very difficult question even to process. What are you trying to say? Because people upset us all the time when they make their bad decisions. But what I'd like to say is this: that person made a decision, and if I am connected with that bad decision, either or, I have the capability to help the regeneration of that person, of that environment, or somehow I also have that within me because I was attracted to that moment. I was connected to that moment. Sometimes we see this between, being a parent. Our kids are making decisions that perhaps are pretty upsetting, or they lack, or they don't do certain things that we would like them to do to advance because of whatever decision they make. Why should I be upset? The idea is to rehabilitate ourselves. So I think they will not be upset that we make this decision, that decision. Their mind is going to be all the way in the front in the future where will be planet Earth if I act this or that way? And their actions will be very of an enlightened manner. Let's remember that the themes discussed in Planetary Transition have nothing to do with eugenics. True, yes. Eugenics, the study of how to arrange reproduction with a human population to increase the occurrence of heritable characteristics regarded as desirable. Thank you. True. And even if that happens, we saw here Dr. Santana saying the spirit is the one who chooses. And even if they decide that that we need to work on this area to boost science, guess what? At the end, the decision will be made by the incarnating spirit. This is an area that we need to explore in the future, where scientists will look into the scientific findings, perhaps, of spiritism, and say, we're lacking in the spiritual arena as well. Because of time, we're going to be going to the end now. We have Chris. I bet some of the young activists we are seeing in the news over the recent years must be these spirits. Greta Thunberg, Malala, Yousafzai, and etc. That is true. I agree with you, Chris. There are a lot of amazing people doing amazing work throughout the world, young individuals. But remember, one thing that I would like to say, and this is Leo take on this, and I'm not just saying this to expose what I think, but coming from a planet that is a happy world, these spirits will not even fathom the idea to do anything that will upset a group of people, or the majority for sure. But they will do things most likely in a very calming and instructive ways. An example that I would like to give on this is Nosolar. Real quick. There is a disturbance that happens for the longest time ever in the colony of Nosolar. And this book is by André Luiz through the hands of Chico Xavier. For the longest time ever, they had a problem with nutrition. Yes, nutrition, eating what they ate, right? That the food that what they're eating was very dense in terms that we could connect with the food that we eat here on the planet Earth now. And for the longest time ever, the governor of Nosolar went through this rehabilitation process with these individuals that wanted to continue a have diet. Remember, we're talking about a spiritual colony having a heavy diet. We're already talking about a light diet here on planet Earth with our very dense physical bodies, and this was happening in Nosolar. The governor, once more, for the longest time ever, he would take these individuals, these spirits, to higher realms to show them, look, we don't need this anymore. We can go ahead and advance by eating very light meals, so that we can propitiate our perispirit to reincarnate more elevated. And you can go to the explanation, I believe it's chapter 9 of the book, but there was no fight whatsoever. There was no moment of discord. He accepted their contributions. Sometimes they fight it very in a low key manner, but he always was in this example of kindness that time will come that we need to do this. Until it came a time that he said, enough is enough. We need to do something, because now it's time that we need to rehabilitate ourselves in a more different, in a more elevated way. But still, there was no condition of violence. There was no words of that would denigrate the other group who was fighting for something still very heavy. I bring this example because it's for all of us. It's not only for the future generation. It's not only for our governors. It's not to be passive either, but to be very firm, but also instructional, to be kind when we're trying to teach them. So I think that these individuals, these spirits, when they reincarnate, they're not going to create any commotion in the sense that people will follow or see them to create disorder, but to truly say, now it's time. I hope it helps. Do you mean their evolution happened in other planetary systems? And you referring to the spirit Yaskos? Yes. The spirits have no connection with planet Earth, and it happened in other planetary systems. That is correct. So to evaluating your question and your comment, there are planets perhaps like Earth. There are planets there are still primitive, like planet Earth was, right? And the ascension of the spirit and the transformation of these planets, so much as the planet that they were coming from, happened throughout time, and their transitions also happen through different planets. Yes. Raquel Leon, this is an amazingly informative book. I am just halfway through. Please keep reading, and I thank you for all your comments and all your questions that you have. Please share them with me. I would love to hear from you, and send our questions to the SSB, and we can one day, hopefully, not only do this moment of talk and presentation, but to truly study, because there are a lot of content that we need to dive through and rescue in our daily lives. Such a great book by Kirsten. Hello, everyone. Glad to share this time with you. And yes, I am too. I am very happy to be here and to guide everyone in this conversation. And I know I read a lot and I bring a lot of content, because sometimes I fear that, and I shouldn't fear, we fear that we will leave something on the side that we need to bring. But the invitation that I would like to bring, so we can finalize here, is that these teachings, it may give us this amazing feeling. Oh my gosh, we're connecting with higher minds. We are being visited by higher spirit. Beautiful spirits are reincarnating on planet Earth. Well, why not bring this feeling to our day-to-day interactions with our loved ones at home, those whom were not loved so much that we have our difficulties. Let us think this way, so that perhaps we can envision planet Earth also being a happy planet. Remember, we are going from a planet of trials and expiation to a planet of regenerative state. I am taking a leap. Yes, I would like to invite everyone to ask everyone to promote themselves and promote others so that we can go through the transition out to a planet of regeneration, but also not to stay in the regenerative area or condition for too long. Yes, it will probably take a couple thousand of years. Yes, but if we do the best we can, we'll take leaps, right? We'll connect faster with these higher minds. So here's the challenge that I leave for myself and to you as well as an amazing thank you for this moment, for sharing this moment with us, to truly challenge yourself that we can be worthy of continuing this planet and go through its transition as well in a more faster pace. Thank you. At this moment, I would like to invite everyone for our final prayer and remind everyone that the moment of prayer, although we're in this virtual setting, it's for our homes, for our hearts, and it really permeates throughout our homes. So much so that when people come to our homes, they'll say, "Wow, somebody prayed over here. Somebody was praying, was really feeling this joy." They won't say such a thing, but they will feel the joy of your home. So let us do that. So our homes can also become a beacon of light for these enlightened minds who are incarnating here with us. With no further ado, we would like to invite everyone to give thanks to our dear Creator, our amazing Master Jesus, all the mentors, the ones that He has sent to help us, our mentors, the mentors of our families, the mentors of our communities. Let us ask that we can also learn from them, to receive examples through the moment of sleep, through the moment that we are immersed in this physical body, to learn and develop ourselves. Always reminding ourselves that we are in this together. Although the evolutionary path at times can be very difficult and lonely, we have one another to support, to guide, and the beauty of collecting or receiving the results together has no price. The eternal condition that we all inserted in will give us in the future the ability to always rejoice in happiness, love, constructing a beautiful planet. May your guidance be with us, dear Master Jesus. May these spirits who will be reincarnating or already reincarnated here on earth execute their work with our help, with our compassionate heart to change and motivate others who are not in our level. And so be it. Thank you, dear friends, and until next time.